Hi everybody, we're going to talk about piecewise functions. Piecewise functions in this video. I'm not sure if you did this during Algebra 1, but we are going to go through it. You're going to probably want to watch this video at least once, if not twice, and we'll be working on this in our next class. So, for these functions, a piecewise function has two or more expressions graphed. And here are the two. The function of x, the function f for x is x minus 2 if x is less than -1, and x plus 3 if x is greater than -1. And the goal is for us to graph that on the plane. Okay? So the first thing you need to do is to, in a sense, graph both of these. And we know how to do that. Y is equal to x minus 2. You know how to graph that. What's the y-intercept? -2. What's the slope? 1, because it's 1x. So up 1, over 1. Up 1, over 1. So I'll keep making this blue one to represent that line. So that's x minus 2. Okay? Now, on the same graph, let's plot the line x plus 3. Y equals x plus 3. So what's the y-intercept? Y-intercept is 3. And the slope is 1. Up 1, over 1. Up 1, over 1. Up 1, over 1. And then it's going to look like that. So in a sense, and we know they're parallel because slope is 1, slope is 1. They aren't always going to be parallel. They'll cross sometimes if they need to, but you'll see how this plays out with piecewise. So we've plotted those points. That's step 1. And you're going to have to, in your Google form that you submit for homework, talk to me about the steps. Step 1, plot lines. Okay? Now, if x is less than -1, that's the first one. So here's our x-axis. Here's 0, 0. Here's -1. So it's only when x is less than -1 that this is going to exist. So what we're going to do is for anything greater, we're going to erase it. And I've erased it on the -1 because we're going to want to make it as a circle. It's open-ended. Because it's less than, not less than or equal to, less than. So it's less than, and then here's our line right here. So x minus 2 if x is less than 1. Here's this line, x plus 3, when x is greater than -1. So here's our -1. We go here. I'm going to have to put a circle right there. And I'm going to erase anything here because it's everything greater than -1. And that is going to be our line right there. So we have now graphed this piecewise function. It's called piecewise because we have pieces. Okay? And remember, first thing to do is to plot lines. Then it's to use greater than or less than, or greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. If it was or equal to, we would fill in the circles there. And so that is our plotting of those points, okay? So that's an important thing that we're going to have to do tomorrow, our next class. here is our next topic, absolute value. We're going to plot absolute value equations, okay? And the function f, absolute value of 2x minus 4. Step 1, do an xy table, which I've done for you already right here. If x is negative 3, put that into the equation. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Oh, but we're taking the absolute value of negative 6, so it's 6. 6 minus 4 is 2. Absolute value of negative 2. Negative 2 times 2. Negative 4. Negative 4, oh, the absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. So positive 4 minus 4 is 0. So here would be an XY table that you're making. And then all we do is plot the points. Okay? Negative 3, 2. Negative 3, 2. Negative 2, 0. Negative 1, negative 2. 0, negative 4. 1, negative 2. 2, 0. Okay? Now, when you do this, oh, which point did I plot wrong here? Oh, this one. When you, in Algebra 1, graphed a parabola, it had a curvy point. With absolute value, it's going to be an actual point. It's going to come down, and it's going to make a V. If I put a negative sign in front of this, meaning negative the absolute value, that graph is going to look like that. And I think you guys did this in Algebra 1 too. So you should be somewhat familiar with graphing of absolute functions. So the steps for an absolute value graph, function graphing, make an XY table, and then 2, plot the points. And then 3, you will have either a V or an upside down V. Okay? And that's always going to happen. And now we're also in class going to recognize what do things like the y-intercept, how does that figure into our function? So we can start to read them and lead us into our next section of parent functions. Okay? So, 2 things we've learned today: piecewise functions and how to graph absolute value functions. Next class, you're going to be graphing a lot of these. And you're going to really be just graphing, and working together and doing some problems and kind of getting familiar with these types of problems. Okay? So, you might need to watch this video again to be able to go back and see the sequence of these, because that's going to be your Google form. Tell me the steps for an absolute value function and a piecewise function. Okay?